What is it about our fear of aging? Because men don't have the same fear. And we gotta ask why. What are the things that we have been learning, have been conditioned to know that causes us to be so afraid of losing our youth, but the men are like aging like fine wine? It's so quick to get in the lack mindset when you look at yourself in the mirror. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Twenties Detox. I'm Bianca, your host, where we dive into all the things that I'm learning and unlearning in my 20s to elevate this decade. The season here is about She Breaks Barriers. And the topic that I really felt called to share about today is about aging, our fear of aging, and also the biological clock, because I wanted not just honor the very beautiful older woman in my life, like my grandmother, my mother, my aunts, my great aunt. They are so beautiful. But then also young people. We are still afraid of aging because the clock is ticking regarding fertility, and men don't really have that same sense of urgency. Before we get into the episode, make sure to subscribe, and also you can download this episode. It really helps me out. And if there are any downloads along the way while you're listening, just comment it. I just love to know your thoughts and know that so many of us have different downloads that are so amazing, impactful, and love to know what you think about it. Okay, let's get into the episode. My friend and I recently were making pasta from scratch. I came back from a retreat and I told her, I'm like, immediately we need to make fresh pasta because I don't want to forget the tips. And as we were making the pasta, she just asked me, like, would you ever get Botox? And I was like, well, right now I can say, like, I don't really have a desire for Botox. I don't really want to get Botox. And I've also heard, mixed reviews on using Botox in general. But I also feel that it's like special to have lines on your face that show how you've lived your life, And she's like, yeah, I definitely feel like I got no desire to get Botox. Like, there's just no interest for me to go get it. And I'm like, respect to you, because I actually have been having a lot of like mixed feelings about it, because I'm grateful at 26 to not have a lot of like lines right now, whereas I know some women already start at a younger age and they don't want to feel like they look older than they really are. But then I also feel like we need to talk about, like, what is it about our fear of aging? Because men don't have the same fear. And we gotta ask why. What are the things that we have been learning, have been conditioned to know, that causes us to be so afraid of losing our youth, but the men are like aging like fine wine? Why are we haggard, but they're like silver fox energy? It's unbalanced. It's not what sets us up for feeling empowered, feeling really centered in what we're supposed to do on this planet. We're not supposed to overly stress about our looks all the time. And it's interesting because when I was in my adolescence years, I remember like that was when it started for me, where I felt like I needed to get into self-tanning and making sure my eyebrows never were outgrowing themselves, because I'm prone to have a unibrow. And then nowadays also there's just like so much out there of every ounce of hair needs to be shaved or waxed or lasered off our bodies. Lip injections, eye lifts, facelifts, cheek filler, chin filler. It goes on and on and on. And although I don't think all these women are like really trying to put other women down, I wouldn't have even thought about, oh, am I not supposed to have hair on my arms? Oh, should I be afraid of the butt chin I have? Oh my gosh, yeah, I have crow's feet. Am I not supposed to have that? And you start to notice these things, and maybe if you're prone to body dysmorphia in some ways, or I think they call it like snapshot dysmorphia, where you get really like confused about your own features and think that they're not right because it needs to be like a filter out there. We think that there's something wrong with ourselves. And this like tight grip on maintaining our youth is so strong in women. And I really want to detox from it. That's the plan today. I want to detox from that shit because I don't feel like this is what we should be doing with our lives. We shouldn't be stressing about, oh my gosh, I have lines on my neck. Oh my gosh, I have crow's feet that's developing. Oh my gosh, the lines on my forehead. I don't think that we should be. There's a balance. I do believe that in maintenance. Like, I think that in general, it's okay to maintain our features. Like, I love playing around with some makeup. I love doing some like gua sha. I like taking care of my body, but I don't make it a part of my identity. I don't make it me. I'm so much deeper than my looks. So for me to stress about all these different things, oh, like I have a receding hairline, like I don't want to stress about it. I don't want you guys to stress about it. We have so many more important things in our lives that we can be doing, but we let ourselves have the way we look at the forefront, and it shouldn't be at the forefront. It's really interesting. I briefly said it before about the language differences between men and women when it comes to aging. For men, they're distinguished, seasoned, wise, experienced. But for women, they're haggard, past their prime, or she's aged like milk, old maid. When men age, they get more attractive, but when women age, they're less attractive. I also just think about like Leonardo DiCaprio dating a freaking 25-year-old every single year, like every few years. Older men being less attracted to their wives and feeling like they can connect with younger women. It's not natural. That shouldn't be happening. But I do think it's another reaction of our obsession to maintain our youth, that it's the only thing that keeps us attractive. And then at a certain point, past the time of like past our prime, after they've had kids or in their 30s and 40s and 50s, whatever, that now they're no longer ideal. And I was just reading Eat, Pray, Love, the remake of it, where Elizabeth was just kind of explaining how she hadn't read the book in like over 10 years and reread it and fixed it up. And as she was going through like these travels, she who is like now in her late 40s, but at the time of the book, she was in her early 30s, mid 30s. She thought she was so old. She thought, well, like nobody's going to pay attention to me. What am I doing even solo traveling? This is way past my time. It's like so many young people going to be doing this. And now in her late 40s, I feel like she really has detoxed from those belief systems and not thinking that she's old and not really fearing age in general and embracing it. I feel like when I turned 25, that was when I was like her in her early 30s or mid 30s, however old she was when she did that trip, where I'm like, oh my gosh, now like nothing else matters. I'm too old now at 25. And maybe some of you were later in your lives and wiser and you're like, honey, that is ridiculous. But I think that there's this like weight to being 25. It's the first quarter of your life. And you start to question, what have you done with your lives? Are you losing time? Have you found your partner? Are you going to get married soon? Are you going to have kids soon? And you start actually adopting these feelings of like, I'm feeling old. Like I'm feeling older, but I haven't really accomplished much at the same time. It's this like disconnect where like, yes, men, when they get older, they get wiser, but like the significance of a woman's age in a patriarchal world is really like around young adulthood. Some girls had kids really young, but young adulthood. And then eventually when they stop having children, then they're less significant to society. They've done their job, had the kids, next. And that is just like such bullshit. Like I'm so over women of every stage feeling insecure. I had this conversation with one of my friends. It's like, no matter what decade we're going to be in, there's going to be another thing we're stressed about. Always. A woman will always feel like they need to question their worth unless they are attuned to what they're believing in. The news online, gosh, I forget who it was. Let me look it up. Lisa LaFlame, a Canadian news anchor for the CTV National News, was let go from her position after deciding to let her hair go gray naturally. While CTV stated the decision was a business decision, it's not related to her age or hair color. Many believe her decision to stop dyeing her hair contributed to her dismissal. The reason why that pisses so many of us off is because when a man just lets their hair go, that's never even a thought. And I have to say, like, there's a lot of very close people in my life, family members, who, men, feel like a woman is less beautiful when they stop dyeing their hair and they go naturally gray. And I just want to take a moment for some of you to just think about, maybe even pause this. If you're driving, if you're doing chores, or you're just going for a walk, whatever, just pause this. And I want you to reflect on what aging means to you. Just take a moment, because I think it is important to know what belief systems maybe you have and what people say about it in general. And some of the things that I can think about, I've already expressed, like they're past their prime, definitely not as attractive as for women. When they have their hair go gray, when they have more wrinkles, they're letting themselves go. One of the things is they lose, like I said, their value. Women, when they age, they're no longer valuable. They are the most valuable when they're youthful. The next thing, and so many stories, and we're going to share some about different cultures, about how we're going to unlearn this. In so many cultures, we make aging women invisible. I want you to look at movies. They're a lot better now, but in the past, look at movies and how they represented older women. Usually they were just in the background. They're not really important. They're kind of like, oh, she's a crazy lady. The grandma, they'll say the grandma, just insignificant. We overlook their wisdom and what they've gone through in life. We completely overlook it. Another is this weird thing where you shouldn't get that much work done because you're going to be called fake. But then at the same time, if you do nothing, then you've totally given up and let yourself go. That feeling like we can't win, and that no matter what you do, you're going to be judged. When I was with these women at the retreat, some of them were older than me, in their 50s, 60s, 70s. One of the women were like, oh, do you think I can wear this, or am I too old for that? And I was like, you are not too old for that. Why are you saying that to yourself? There's other women in my life, I'm not going to reference them, that have said the exact same thing. Why do you feel like you're too old to wear something? And also about their sexuality. That's another thing Elizabeth Gilbert said in her book. Thinking at the age of 34, when she was overhearing some wild sex in the upstairs floor in Rome, that she was too old to ever experience something like that again. There's so many things. It's so complex when you really think about it, of how much we are conditioned to be afraid of aging. And in the flip side, the real root of it is we've placed so much of our worth, of our value as women, into our youthfulness. So that's step one, is recognizing that. It's not just your inner circle or what you have experienced through movies, but also media, of how everybody out there perceives older women, and they just push them aside because they're not important to society that much anymore. They're just completely overlooked. Youth is sex appeal. When you're older, no sex appeal. It's just messed up. I have other notes here because I feel like I am not only approaching this from my age of being 26, but I am thinking about stories and references from my mom, her friends, the older women in my life. Do you know who I think is one of the most beautiful people in my life? My Granny Mary. And she has so many wrinkles. And when I was a kid, she told me that she was given this serum, because she finally started using serum and sunscreen, because she hadn't a lot in her life, why she has the wrinkles. And I, as a little girl, asked my grandmother, being like, why, what are you doing? What are you putting on your face? She says, well, I went to the skincare place and they told me that if I take the serum or I put the serum on my face, it will help with my wrinkles. And I guess I was like a savage as a kid. I don't know where all that went. But I was like, I don't think it's good. I think it's a little late for that, Gran. And thankfully, my Gran just had like a really lighthearted, like she didn't get triggered or anything, just started laughing and thought it was funny because really, she's so carefree. She doesn't even care. She doesn't even care. And I think that she teaches a really important lesson for women to not overly obsess on their looks. My sister recently cut her hair. I mean, like all of it off. It's like a pixie cut. And she had hair almost as long as I did. And when I first saw her, I was like, oh my gosh, that's insane. But you look amazing and you look so powerful. And I wish I could do something like that because I put too much of my worth into my hair. There's so many things that we might be putting our worth into. If it is your worth, your youthfulness, maybe your skin. And one day when you start seeing wrinkles, you start to question your sense of identity and your sense of beauty and your sense of worth, and it's a lesson. When I witnessed my sister cut all of her hair off, I was like, holy shit, I have so much of my worth in my hair, because me trying to envision that causes so much anxiety because I don't know if I'm gonna feel beautiful. And my grandmother feels so detached from that. I don't know if it's maybe too detached, like she doesn't even recognize her own beauty, because I know she said she's had a hard time ever seeing herself in that way. But at the same time, she looks so free. She looks so free from what society has conditioned her to feel. Wise women in my life have taught me more than I think anything that I've read in a book, unless it's a wise woman who wrote it. But I mean, talking to them and listening to their stories and seeing how they've overcome things and maybe what they still hold on to, what they no longer hold on to. We need to remember that importance. And I feel like seeing how much I love the older women in my life, like truly cherish them, think they are like the most amazing people on this planet, at the same time really helps me let go of this fear of aging and be excited for it. Like, I can't wait to be wise and nobody's gonna question the stories I have to say, the lessons I've learned, the experiences I've had. Well, maybe they will question it, but not as much as my age now. Being youthful is not everything. And aging is so exciting. After the age of 25, when I turned 26, it felt like I was starting over again. I felt more like when I turned 26, I was one again. Like, I felt so youthful. I felt so excited. I felt like this weight of the age of 25 was gone. And I no longer attached so deeply to what I needed to look like, what I needed to achieve, how I needed to be, presenting myself in the world. I was like, I'm new, I'm fresh, I'm doing this thing, and we will see how it unfolds. Because at 25, I was like, am I getting wrinkles? And I started putting like this tape on my forehead and my crow's feet and my smile lines, and doing all these like massages every night on my face in fear that I'm starting to look old, and I wanted to start looking young, and it was exhausting. Like, I don't know how some of you guys do it. Like, think on a regular basis, I'm going to do this for my skin and this to my face, and I need to do this next month, and maybe I should touch up this on my lips. Like, I'm not going to ever discredit like what some of you guys do. If you feel great, makes you feel good, okay. I just like feel like I got more important things to do, more important things to say, to experience. And I get into these cycles of reminding myself, like, I need to just slow down and stop falling into these trends and like what this next thing I should be doing to my face, and questioning about, like, at one point I was like, oh my gosh, I think I have a receding hairline. But I got in my head thinking that this is a new thing that I'm experiencing when I think I've always had this since I was a little girl. And it's not a sign of aging, but it's just a sign that it's me. And I'm also starting to kind of like my crow's feet and the little wrinkles that I have, because people are starting to take me seriously a bit more versus looking at me like I'm just like a spring chicken and don't really know what I'm doing, talking about. I'm appreciating that aspect of the aging. But as I was looking into aging in general, how are we going to learn to detox from this fear? I looked into different cultures because I believe to the root of everything, like some Japanese, Indigenous, African, like cultures have these secrets for what we're looking for. And it's not really that quick and superficial. It's deep. It's something we need to reconnect with, relearn. And it's so not honored anymore. But when you think about it, our elders are not really honored in the way that they used to. So no wonder we fear it. We put all of the amazement and the pride into young people and what they've created and how they present themselves and how they look. And older women are just like, she used to look so good. Nothing's going to annoy me more than that. I love Angelina Jolie. I've always loved her. I think that she has this energy of a huntress that I identify with as one of the female archetypes. And I love what she stands for. I just love her. Like, I do. I really enjoy. I've always felt connected with her. I've always felt connected with the women in the spotlight who have been labeled as this like dark, evil manipulator, huntress. I see them. I see how they are being perceived poorly for such power. And I don't like this, oh, but in her prime, she was beautiful. She's beautiful now. She's beautiful now. Deeper, if not. Because when you look at her, you see wisdom, you see life, you see experiences, you see struggles and happiness. You see so much more than the younger version of her. And in Japanese culture, Indigenous wisdom, ancient Greece, African proverb, like they have that essence to it that we need to remember. In Japanese culture, wabi sabi, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly. Please let me know in the comments because I'm always here to learn. Never a perfect person here, but I'd strive to at least learn how to pronounce things properly because nobody could pronounce my last name. Anyway, wabi sabi is the Japanese philosophy of beauty in imperfection, transience, and age. They revere things that show the passage of time, like aged wood, weathered stone. They see that wrinkles and signs of aging are not flaws, but marks of a well-lived life. And I really, really see that. Like, you know, you can look at somebody and know if they have been a joyful person versus a dweller and a pessimist. I look at my grandmother and I see how she has so many wrinkles on her face from smiling. It's hilarious. More than anybody I've seen. So even if she isn't smiling, you know that she's happy or has lived a very joyful life and emanates this like positivity and lightheartedness. I love it. I love seeing that. And I hope that one day when I have my wrinkles, it'll show my smiles and like times I've smiled and laughed and help people laugh as well, because freaking life's too short and too negative at times. We should laugh. And Indigenous wisdom, they think similarly, where a lot of Indigenous cultures, they view elders with deep reverence. They respect their elders. And I say this as like a Canadian in general. I'm going to speak for Canadians. Honoring that culture because we're on their land is so important. It will make us feel way more connected as a Canadian, as being on this earth, than if we, and I'm guilty for this, of like having these like fantasizing thoughts of Italy and like that's maybe our roots, that's our background. But if we're going to be comfortable being in Canada, let's honor the people who've been here. They are so much deeper in ways that I think some of us don't know. As white people, we don't. And I witnessed it firsthand when I went to school in Sudbury, where there's a lot of Indigenous people and students that are Indigenous. And when they talk about their elders, it is very different than when we talk about our elders. Their elders are so important. They are the source, and our elders are tossed aside. And we start to wonder, why do I not feel content with my life? Why don't I feel content with my choices? And I swear, if you had a conversation a week with an elderly person, they'd make you feel more at peace with your life because they've lived life. They have more wisdom than you'll be able to read in this week from a book or a lecture or a TED Talk or a podcast. Like, they hold that wisdom. And with Indigenous people, they see wrinkles of women as visual markers of their knowledge, survival, and guidance. They are maps of lived experience. In ancient Greece, though beauty in youth was celebrated, Sophocles and other Greek philosophers spoke about the beauty in aged wisdom. The goddess of Hecate represented the crone aspect, an older woman full of power, intuition, and depth. An African proverb, wisdom is like a baobab tree. No one individual can embrace it alone. I talk about like the unlearn, learn, relearn cycle in detoxing, right? One of the things we have to unlearn is our worth in youthfulness, first and foremost. And we need to relearn through ancient wisdom the importance and the beauty of aging and wrinkles and showing that experience. And as you go through life, you can learn how to adopt some belief systems that support that core truth in there. You know, I grab onto that story of my grandmother and how beautiful she is despite all of her wrinkles. I think about Angelina Jolie and how so many people think of her as past her prime, but I see her despite maybe health issues she might be going through. Okay, and Ariana Grande losing weight and Angelina Jolie being too thin. Like, I look past that. Let's just look at their eyes. They never lie. And there's wisdom in their lived experiences, and it's totally okay for that fluctuation. I want to have a different episode on body image in general. But for aging, reading more into ancient culture, ancient wisdom, Indigenous people, thinking about what they stand for. Could it relate to you? Could you adopt some of what they believe in? Could that make you feel more at peace with your life, with yourself, and your path in life? And I also want to just briefly touch on this like obsession with maintaining our youth. How does it make you feel when you take a step back from that level of maintenance you're trying to keep up? How does it feel? When I stopped self-tanning, dyeing my hair, and doing all these face exercises and face tape and putting so much makeup on my face, I was trying to hide the pigmentation, and the list goes on and on. When you just stop and maybe even stop looking at yourself in a mirror that much and look at other things like nature and your friends and reading really feel good things and stepping back into abundance, not so much lack, because it's so quick to get in the lack mindset when you look at yourself in the mirror. Oh, I could be a little bit more tan, or oh, I guess I should maybe maintain my eyebrows a bit more, or whiten my teeth, or looking a bit yellow. I've been having too much coffee. Oh, look at that crow's feet. It's starting to develop and deepen a little bit more. I should go get those eye patches. That's exhausting, girlfriend. It's tiring. We weren't meant to look at so many beautiful people. We're not meant to look at ourselves this much. We're meant to do a lot of other things, beautiful, incredible, amazing things. So I'm going to love you and leave you with that today. I hope that you have thought about a few things about what aging means to you, the belief systems that maybe you can start to unlearn in this, and also what you could maybe look into afterwards to reconnect with falling in love with aging, finding it exciting, and not so fearful. If you did like this episode, make sure to share it with a friend who you feel like will really resonate with this. It's always good to share it, dissect it with somebody, even if you don't feel comfortable commenting, maybe journaling a little bit about your thoughts about aging, etc. Talking to them about it, knowing what their thoughts are. And I strongly suggest connecting with other women in your life and knowing what they feel. And lastly, as a little call to action, have a conversation with an elderly woman in your life. And if it isn't somebody in your family or your direct circle, maybe just chat it up with a lady on the subway, transit, see what they think. You're not always going to get the best responses, but sometimes you will, and just know how they feel. What did you learn from that? What did you feel from that? What energy do you feel like you could adopt more? I appreciate you guys. I love you so much. I can't wait to see you next week. Bye.